It's one of the most emotional times of the year. I mean, you could either leave feeling like you've won the Super Bowl or leave feeling like you've just destroyed your franchise for the next 10 years. The NFL Draft is one of the most highly anticipated events in professional sports. Each year, millions of fans tune in to see which college players are going to be drafted to their favorite teams. But there are many aspects of the NFL Draft that people may not know. So in this video, we'll discuss the truth about the NFL Draft, its history, the money behind it, what happens to undrafted players, and more. Let's do it. The NFL Draft has a rich history that dates all the way back to 1936, but it wasn't the spectacle that it is today. In the early years, teams would just select their players until they ran out of picks and call it a day and figure it out. The modern format that you see today was introduced in 1967 and has definitely evolved over time. Now the draft is a multi-day event that's nationally televised and draws millions upon millions of fans every single year. Each team is in a designated order of picks based on their record from the previous season, with the worst teams getting the highest picks. Being a Jets fan, that's usually where I am. But while the draft is extremely exciting and fun for the fans, it's also a very crucial time for teams to build their roster and plan their future. The NFL Draft is not just about selecting the best players, it's also about managing the salary cap and staying within a team's budget. When a player is drafted, they can receive a contract that includes some of the following: a signing bonus, a base salary, a reporting bonus, a roster bonus, a workout bonus, and other select incentives. And of course, the higher a player is drafted, the more money they're going to get. Last year's number 1 overall pick, Travon Walker, signed a $37.3 million contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars for 4 years. In that, a $24.3 million signing bonus. However, the amount of money that a team can pay their draft picks now has a lot more regulation than it has over the years. There's a few key factors that oversee this. The major one obviously being the league salary cap, but another huge one is the rookie pay scale, because that ultimately sets the maximum amount of money that a team can pay a drafted player. The wage scale is pretty simple, and it boils down to just the top player getting the most amount of money and then a scaled back dollar amount for each pick thereafter. The further down a player drops on the draft board, obviously the less money they see in a salary and guarantees, just money in general. But the actual contract negotiations can vary depending on the situation. Some players may negotiate a lower base salary and higher signing bonus so that their team can stay under the salary cap and get the most money to their players. That's why a lot of times it's extremely helpful for these players to have agents that either have relationships with GMs and owners from the past or know the lay of the land. Though it is awesome to see that players are starting to self-represent and learn more of the lay of the land and the nuances because it's their money and their future and their family's future. I mean, me personally, I want to have the most control I can over me and my family's future. Now, obviously, that's not the case with every single draft pick. Now, each drafted player does get a 4-year deal, but each first-round pick has a built-in 5th-year option that must be exercised within the player's 3rd and 4th year. And in regards to how they're paid over those 4 years, well, it's very differently because it's a scale, just like many jobs you have. So, of course, the later the round that they're drafted, the less money they're receiving, but also the less security they're receiving. I mean, many of these players will not get paid until they actually make the team. So while players that are drafted do receive a contract, many of them don't receive the money until they have proven themselves and went out to training camp and practice and made their roster spot. So many of those training camp and preseason games that you may think are pointless are actually people fighting to earn their paycheck and a spot on the team, even if they were drafted. Using Spotrack's numbers from a few years ago, here's the average salary from each round's drafted players. So getting drafted in general obviously provides, life-changing money and life-changing opportunities, but not every single college player gets selected in the NFL Draft. So what happens to the undrafted players? Well, some go sell insurance, literally. But most become undrafted free agents. These are players that were not selected during the draft, but were signed by teams shortly after it. They typically have a much shorter time to prove themselves than the drafted players, obviously. Drafted players are often given way more opportunity and a lot more security because the team invested a lot in them, both in a draft pick and millions of dollars. In contrast, the undrafted free agents only really have a game or a few practices to prove themselves. And some are able to do it, but for those who are not, they either get released or signed to the team's practice squad. If an undrafted player is signed to the team's practice squad, they get paid a weekly salary and are not able to actually play in games until they're promoted to the active roster. One interesting thing about practice squad players is that any team can come in and sign them to their active roster. But the current team that has that player signed to their practice squad has the right to match whatever offer that they're being given by another team. Now, if a player does successfully get signed by another team, they're typically required to stay on the team's active roster for about 3 weeks. So they don't really have that much time throughout the season to prove themselves or disprove themselves, but it's not enough for teams. They usually just see ya. Honestly, it is worth noting that some of the NFL's greatest players in history were undrafted free agents. Kurt Warner, Antonio Gates, James Harrison, Wes Welker are all included in that. There truly are a million different ways that teams can build their Super Bowl roster and find their success story. And again, I need to emphasize that a successful draft can set up a team for years to come. Could even set up the league for years to come. Players like Patrick Mahomes not only win many games and multiple Super Bowls for their team, but also grow the game immensely on a league level. When you have a player that talented and that personable, it reaches across the entire globe. So the NFL loves when there's great players being drafted to the right teams. The draft also does have a ripple effect in the NFL ecosystem as a whole. Free agency, the trade market, and the salary cap are directly affected by the draft. But the biggest impact the draft has, in my opinion, is on the players. They have worked their entire lives to get to the NFL. Probably from age 4 at Pee Wee football to age 21, 22 college football. They've worked for it, and it's on them to change their lives. Being drafted can provide financial security for the players and their families, and also just gives them the opportunity to play football at the highest level, the kids' game at the highest level, like we've all dreamed of. But whether you're a diehard fan or a casual observer, I think having a deeper understanding of the nuances of the NFL draft and the impact it has really allows you to have a better appreciation for what goes into building a roster, winning a Super Bowl, and building a successful draft year in and year out. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I really want to keep building this community and growing with you guys together in sports. Let me know who you think your favorite team is going to draft in the comments below, and also let me know what other kind of videos you guys want to see from me. Mike Krochenko on Twitter, Instagram, Mike K-Talk on TikTok. Check out the 2 recommended videos that YouTube has on the screen right now. I thank you all so much for watching, truly. I hope you have a great day, and good luck with the draft. See you guys later.